Today's webinar will be focused on comparing our payroll solution to ADP. If that's not where you expected to be, that's okay. You are welcome to stay, or you can check out the link below, which has registration for the other sessions we're conducting today. In a moment, we will introduce the speakers and review today's agenda. But before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping items. This session will last approximately 30 minutes. We encourage you to submit questions in the chat. We have team members who will be both answering some of them in chat and tagging others to be answered when we get to the Q&A later in this session. So please go ahead and jump in to chat and tell us where you're joining from today. If you experience any technical issues, try refreshing your screen or reconnecting to the webinar. This session is being recorded, and we'll share the recording by tomorrow, and we'll send it via email that you registered for this session. Now, let's take a moment and meet our speakers. First of all, I'm Jeff Hughes. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at OnTheClock. My team is responsible for making sure that you get maximum utilization out of your time tracking solution, and now focused on enrolling and supporting payroll customers. Next up is Dylan.
Hey everybody, my name is Dylan Munn, and I'm with the backend engine that helps power all the tax calculations and tax filings for the payroll, for OnTheClock payroll. I have been in payroll sales for about 7.5 years and have moved hundreds of employers off of ADP, so I can speak to, or I'm going to be speaking to some of the very specific points of where OnTheClock is going to shine a little brighter than your current ADP system. And I'll hand the ball over to Steve.
Thanks, Dylan. Hi, everybody. My name is Steve. I'm the product manager here at OnTheClock. My team is responsible for building the time tracking solutions and most recently our payroll offering. We're excited for you to see a little bit about the product and what we have to offer you. Gary.
Thanks, Steve. I'm Gary. I'm the head of business development and payroll account executive here at OnTheClock. And my goal is to basically work with you and make sure that our system is going to be a good fit for you and is able to take care of any issues that you have and simplify your life.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for introductions. In today's webinar, we're going to be reviewing the common payroll challenges that all small businesses face. Next, we'll specifically talk about ADP and how we built OnTheClock payroll to compete. Gary will do a quick demo to show you how easy it is to run payroll right from your OnTheClock account. Plus, we'll look at how your employee experience will improve. And last, we'll make sure we answer any questions that you might have at the end of the session. Please stick around until the end. We do have a great offer we'd like to share with you in appreciation for you joining us today. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Dylan.
Jeff? Well, so one of the reasons that a lot of our customers have come to us and said, asked, what brought OnTheClock to start in building a payroll product. And there's really 5 reasons that we heard from kind of across our customer base. What were the challenges that they're currently having with their payroll system? The first one was hidden fees. What they loved about OnTheClock was it's very straightforward pricing. Their current payroll provider was, the prices always seems to change. There was no real consistency about it. Their current payroll system was very slow and rigid. A lot of these older payroll companies were just built on outdated technology. And it always seemed like even if you had multiple tools with that platform, it was always very challenging to know which area to go in. It seemed like the systems were all completely built differently. And unfortunately, one of the major themes we hear across the board is poor customer support. And that's more comparing them against OnTheClock's. One of the strongest leads that we have really is around our customer support. And the final piece is it seems like it wasn't really built for small businesses. So how does this translate over to your ADP experience? Again, this is really the feedback that we've been getting from our customer base on ADP. So, I'm sure some of these may hit home more than others with you. But the main one is expensive plans. And so one of the trends that we have noticed is a lot of our customers may have gotten sold on a hyper discount, but that discount may have expired. And now their pricing may have doubled, tripled, quadrupled. But there's also a lot of the hidden fees associated with as well. And so they thought that, payroll is payroll, right? I got sold a fixed amount of fees per month, and that's going to take care of my whole payroll. Unfortunately, a lot of people are finding out that's not quite it. There's a lot of hidden fees. A lot of you may have just experienced your W-2 fee at the end of the year, typically about $120 base and about $5 to $12 per W-2. But additionally, even outside of that, all of the different products have their own sub fees, is what we're finding out as well. And so it's not just scheduling and timekeeping is included in one fee. Scheduling is a fee, time tracking is a fee, job costing is a fee, and then payroll. There's fees here, fees there, fees there. So it's just very cloudy, very complicated, which kind of translate over to their system. ADP has 11 different platforms. So are you on ADP Run? Are you on ADP Workforce? Are you on ADP Total Source? Now, so when you go to Google a support issue, it depends on which platform you're on, is where you need to go find this report that you're looking for. So then you reach out to the customer service. And unfortunately, a lot of their customer service agents have been reduced in force. They have not been as well trained as maybe we'd hope they would be, if that might sound familiar. And additionally, it sounds like you're always getting a new rep. Every time you reach out, it's a new conversation, and there's no real consistency in addressing your service issue. And they're just sending you more support articles than actually addressing the pain point. So that's really why we started On The Clock Payroll, and I'll hand it over to Steve to showcase how we're hoping to address all those issues.
Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it. So one of the things that we looked at from a product perspective was how do we integrate with our time tracking? So I'm just going to show you a couple little bullet points here on how we took our approach to launching our payroll system. So first of all, we have the seamless time tracking and payroll bundled together. What we did is we fully integrated our time tracking system with payroll. So there's no need to adjust the hours or add additional hours. Your employees' hours that are tracked in our time tracking solution flow directly into payroll. Simple self-enrollment, hassle-free migration. One of the other things that we're trying to focus on was just a simple self-onboarding process where you're not having to reach out to us multiple times to enroll into payroll. You can simply go into the product, check the eligibility requirements, and if you meet those eligibility requirements, you can just keep going. There's no need to stop and reach out to our support team. It's all self-onboarding. Following along suit with the enrollment self-onboarding is self-onboarding for employees. So a lot of times tracking down employees can be kind of a pain in the butt, trying to get your information for W-2, social security numbers, etc. So what we did is we said, how about we just launch this with the employees? So when the employee launches into their app, whether they log in through web or app, they're going to get a notification that says, hey, your employer enrolled in payroll. There's a couple actions that you need to take. Go ahead and click here. And it is a simple, like not even 2 minutes for an employee to walk through, add their social security number, their withholdings, click continue, and move on to sign their forms. I'm sorry, I forgot to click the button for the employee self-onboarding. And then the automated tax compliance processing. So we handle all your tax calculations, your filings. We make the payments on your behalf, just kind of eliminate all that gray area and just make it super easy for you to continue using payroll. Easy time card approval and submission. So you get to see your time cards before you send them for approval. So the time cards that if you're a time tracking solution customer with us right now, you're able to continue to look at those time cards. You're very familiar with them. It's as simple as clicking a run payroll button from there. You're going to receive a confirmation, confirm your employees' hours. If they look correct, you can go ahead and submit them and it'll go right into the payroll component. What we have for reporting is your typical accounting and compliance reporting. All of our payroll reports are detailed. They have breakdowns for wages, taxes, deductions, etc. And you have direct access to all of this right in your On The Clock account. So appreciate you letting me share that with you. Thank you, Dylan.
Awesome. We're kind of wrapping everything together here before we dive into the demo. This is kind of what I hope your main takeaway is there are some fundamental differences between ADP and the on-the-clock payroll system. The main one, the biggest one, is really everything is one system. So you'll go to process, issue your schedules, employees will clock in. When it's time to process payroll, as Gary is about to show you, it's going to be about 2 or 3 clicks. You're going to have hours back in your year to be able to do whatever you want, much clearer pricing. If you want to expand it to multiple states, there's going to be no extra cost there. It's going to be much better to be able to do financial forecasting because you're going to know what your cost for being able to process payroll is. And it's just going to be an easier system as well. It's going to take you less time. When you do have issues, you're going to have the on-the-clock support that we really pride ourselves on to be able to lead and solve those issues quickly as opposed to sending support tickets back and forth. So I'll hand it over to Gary to do the demo, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, Dylan. So real quick, just to kind of give you an idea and show you, it's very, very simple to actually use on-the-clock payroll. We created it with simplicity in mind, just as we did with the rest of the system. And you're going to see that it's very quick. So this is on-the-clock as you know it when you log in. You're used to seeing this, and this is exactly what it looks like. Nothing has changed. So now when you're ready to run payroll, all you have to do from here is go to your time cards. In your time cards, you would see a blue Run Payroll button. Now, just as always, you'll be able to edit your time cards right here within the system. You can make any changes, alterations, or adjustments necessary. And once your time cards look good, you just click Run Payroll. It's going to bring you here to a payroll summary screen so you can actually see the breakdown of everything. Everyone's earnings, their withholdings, deductions, everything is broken out for you to see. Now, if you need to make any edits to this for whatever reason, you can click on Edit Payroll and it'll take you in where you can go into the individuals and make changes to each of their payroll as necessary. But if everything looks good, you're just going to click on Submit Payroll and it's going to take you right to a success message. And that's it. Payroll is now set to go. And you'll see this green banner that I have here that says Payroll Draft. Once you get to this success message, this is going to change to Payroll Submitted and you're done. That's all there is to it. Now, from the employee perspective, it is also extremely simple for your employees. Now, everything will be located in one spot. From an employee perspective, they would log into OnTheClock, same as always, just as they would to punch in, except now they would have a payroll icon. If they go to that payroll icon, all of their pay stubs will be listed there. They can download, view them, print them out, whatever they need. And they'll also be able to access all of their tax documents within here as well. So W-2s would be in here. And under pay settings, if they need to make any adjustments for anything, such as like their withholdings, or maybe they got a new bank account that they need to set up, they can do all of that under here in one location. The whole focus is to keep everything simple and easy to use. And that is the demo. That's really all there is to it. It's super simple. And from here, we're going to pull everything back up, and we've got some more information coming from Dylan.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you're very excited to see how quick that was. I mean, I was barely off camera for like a minute. And so, yeah, and that's really the feedback we're getting from our customers. And here's a testimonial to just kind of add a little proof to the pudding is, this is with Megan Gillespie, a testimonial that we got from one of our customers who came over to OnTheClock Payroll. And as you can read here, processing her payroll has been cut down drastically because it is only a handful of couple clicks. She can do any edits that she needs to already in the system. She's not tracking down managers to approve the time clocks and then processing payroll. The manager goes back and says, oh my gosh, I forgot something, and back and forth. So she's limited all that time. She's saving about $1,200 per year. That's $1,200. They can do whatever they want for their business. That's not going to be going towards ADP. But additionally, one of the points we haven't really talked about is when you export all your timekeeping information into maybe an Excel sheet that then you upload to ADP or another processor, there's going to be human error at some point. Just it's an unfortunate part of life. But she's also cut out a lot of the human error aspects of processing her payroll on top of saving the time, saving the money. There's just a lot more security in knowing that everything's going to be accurate and secure. So the main kind of last point here on why employers come over to OnTheClock Payroll, again, much better customer support. We're here when you need you. We're going to resolve those issues on a much faster basis. You're able to process your payroll and what you just saw with Gary in a handful of clicks. There's going to be much more clear pricing, no more nickel and diming on you, and you're going to have surprise invoices. And then last but most importantly, everything's in one house. All of your employees' experience is in one system. They're not bugging you to, what is my ADP password? I can't remember. Can you send me my information? And this really keeps things much simpler. So I'll hand over to Jeff for the next part.
Thanks, Dylan. Now, before we get to your questions, and please, as a reminder, be putting your questions in the chat. They're being flagged. Some of them we will answer live. We'll get the panelists up on the screen in just a minute. But we wanted to thank you for attending. I know this is time out of your day, and let you know that we have a special enrollment offer for you. If you enroll in OnTheClock Payroll by the end of this month and run your first payroll with us in April, we'll waive the enrollment fee, which covers migrating your data from your previous solution and setting up your payroll account. And we'll give you 3 free months of time tracking for enrolling this month. So panelists, one more thing. If you registered for this webinar with a different email than what you're using on your account, please reach out to Gary at ontheclock.com and we'll make sure that your discount is applied. So panelists, if you can join me on stage. And we'll get to some of your questions. And I am curious, before we get started, what your thinking is in terms of OnTheClock Payroll and how it compares to your solution. So if you could take a moment and answer our poll while we get started with some of the questions. And Dylan, I'm going to come to you first. I think it was Jackie, but somebody asked a question about the process of migrating from ADP to OnTheClock Payroll. Could you talk a little generally about what the implementation looks like?
Yeah, the main way that we move employers over from ADP is there is admin access that we get. Maybe your CPA might currently have it. So we get assigned admin access to your account. We pull all the reporting, all the tax documents for you. So that takes around 5-10 minutes. I'm just having you, we'll walk you through logging in, adding us, and then the call is done. We pull all the documents for you. And on the next call is your first payroll run call. And so we find it takes about 15 minutes total of your time to move off of ADP and onto OnTheClock and process your first payroll with us.
Okay, great. Gary, I'm going to come to you. I think there was some questions offline about what the cost for payroll with OnTheClock is.
Sorry, can you repeat that? My connection just hated me.
Sorry, of course, Gary. So there's some questions about what our cost is for OnTheClock Payroll.
Yeah, so OnTheClock Payroll is a very straightforward monthly fee. So with the payroll, it is a $40 base fee and then $6 per employee, and that's per month. That's unlimited payrolls within there. So that is built into it. So you could run payroll as many times as you want. You could do off-cycle bonuses and everything. Your pricing isn't going to change. It's just based on those employees that you have in the system that you're running payroll on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Steve, I'm going to come to you. So Dylan talked about the implementation. Could you briefly talk to the audience about what they expect once they start down the path of enrollment?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to gather a little bit of information pertaining to like your company's signatory, who's authorized to sign forms on your behalf, such as tax documents. We're going to take you through a couple employee verifications. So as you know, when you're on the clock account, we ask you we have a couple fields for your employees, but what we don't really have, or we didn't have before, was hire date, etc. So we've added all those details now. So you can be presented with a verification page just to verify your employees' details before we start that transition. Once you do that, it's really simple. You just add your company details, your previous provider, if you had a previous provider, so that we can go and extract that data and help with that onboarding. And then you are well on your way. You feed right into what Dylan was explaining about the onboarding. One thing I did want to touch base on is that there's some questions about like, when do I have to approve my payroll, etc. So currently, if you are a previous provider, we can offer you up to like approval 2 days before you intend to pay your employees. We are working to do a next day pay and a same day pay. We haven't launched those yet, but those are on our roadmap for 2025.
All right, Steve, I think you hit on some of the questions in here, but I'm going to keep you on the hot seat. So
Sure.
there's some questions about salaried employees who are not currently in on the clock from a time tracking perspective. I think there was a question about contractors. So could you speak to everybody who needs to be paid in on the clock payroll?
Yes.
How we solve for that?
If your employee is receiving a paycheck, they do need to be tracking time in on the clock, or at least be a user in on the clock. So that means your salary employee would have to be added as an employee, whether they were a manager or an admin. You'd have to add them to on the clock and set their pay rates. Then we would send that pay rates and their salary to payroll when you run payroll. So you have visibility of that. And the purpose for that is for payroll tracking, right? You need to have that information for auditing, et cetera. Contractors is something that is on our radar for 2025. We'll be launching that as well. So you will be able to set an employee as a contractor, and we will begin supporting contractors probably the second half of 2025.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to address a couple quick questions. Somebody asked about actual checks or direct deposit. So employees would put in their direct deposit information. We do have options for supporting paper check, but direct deposit is the default. There's some questions about calculating taxes. Yes, we do that. Paying to federal and state agencies. Yes, that's part of the product and service, not for additional costs. Somebody asked, nope, we take care of that for you as part of the cost or on the clock payroll. Somebody asked about how many customers we have using our service. So we have over 100 who are enrolled or using on the clock payroll. We also, you met Dylan, he's our partner supporting this. So Dylan, maybe take a moment and talk about how many customers and payroll is processed.
Yeah. Yes, there's a couple of points I want to talk about. I've seen some of these questions. So Check powers tens of thousands of employers in all 50 states, every industry. We have everything from once a year S corps. So somebody gets paid once, typically in December, to multiple thousand. I think our largest employer is around 7,500 employees, and everything in between. And so we're paying tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 employers. And then hundreds of thousands of employees. So there's a couple, if you don't mind, Jeff, I'm just going to take off a couple of things because there's a lot of questions around deductions. Well, actually, real quick, there was a SOC 2 question. We are SOC 2 Type 2 certified. Happy to send over any information if you like. But on the actual back end of processing payroll, yes, we support post-tax and pre-tax deduction types. So if you have a cafeteria 125 plan, we support that. If you have, 401ks, plans that are pre-tax, pre-fit tax, we support those. Some of the garnishment questions, we automatically do all child support garnishments, and which takes about 90% of garnishments. So we take care, and we will do the calculations for all those. My main point being is anything on the deduction end and the post gross wage aspect, we can customize to whatever setup you currently have. And so if that is 401k, gym memberships, car mileage, whatever that post gross wage aspect is, we can accommodate it. But we one point was brought up. Like around, we don't do some things around like the workers' comp class codes. We don't support that. Certified payroll. So for union construction, that's a niche that we don't support currently as well. But for the most part, unless it's a very kind of more niche area, we have seen it. We've been paying it. We've been doing it for a number of years.
Thanks, Dylan. I would also encourage the audience, as you begin the enrollment process, there is a terms and conditions that outlines all of the details regarding our payroll support. So if there are questions that you have that are not answered here, that will help. And then we will make sure that we try to address all these questions following the webinar as well. Gary, I'm going to come to you. So one of the questions was about how soon will my team get paid? When do I have to approve payroll? Could you talk about the expectations for when payroll needs to be approved and when employees will get deposits in their account?
Yeah, so there are multiple stages with this depending on how you set it up. By default, when you first enroll, it's automatically set for 4-day processing. So, for example, if your payday was on Friday, you'd have to submit by Monday. However, we can do additional verification in process to move you up to 3-day and 2-day. So if you go to 3-day for a Friday payday, you'd want to have it submitted by Tuesday, or you could do Wednesday when you have the 2-day. It just depends on when you're doing your enrollment, what information you provide. As we get more information or able to verify the information, we can set it up for faster processing times.
All right, thank you, Gary. I'm cruising through the questions. Anyone sees anything that still needs to be answered here, please jump in.
I did see one
Yeah,
around.
so there was
go ahead, Gary.
there was one specifically regarding tips and asking about if we could support tips. So actually on the clock, and you may not have it turned on, we do have a field where tips can be input, and those can carry over to payroll as well.
Awesome. And then we currently only support the United States. Canada is on our roadmap, probably for 2020, end of 2025, if not early 2026.
Yeah, and I see some questions that might be specific to your use case. I would encourage in the follow-up email you'll get with a recording from today's session, there will be an opportunity to schedule customized time with one of our sales team to be able to talk to them specifically about your situation. You can do that through this link here too. Thank you, Chad. And we'll be able to reach back out and set up a time that works to discuss your situation. So with the last few minutes we have remaining, I wanted to thank you for your time. We appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to learn how we have built Payroll and how it could be a better solution than ADP for you. And we do look forward to you reaching out to enroll or to discuss your specific situation. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.